I'm gonna pivot just a little bit from that cheery cheery note. Um, let's see, in your book Power, you discuss at great length the intimate relationship between the complexity of a civilization and the available power to run it. Could you share just a little bit on that for those who have yet to read the book about why hydrocarbons have been so fundamental to industrial modernity?
Mhm. Well, the emergence of state societies, what we often call civilization, occurred, 5, 6, 7,000 years ago as a result of energy surplus in the form of storable grains, agriculture. Once we had storable grains, then there was the possibility of building sedentary societies that stayed in one place and accumulated wealth, and then also created full-time division of labor. So you had some people who were full-time farmers, other people full-time soldiers, inventors, and tax collectors, and all kinds of things. And you get that's civilization, right? So it depends upon an energy surplus. And from the beginning of civilization up until a couple of hundred years ago, that energy surplus came from grain agriculture and was applied via muscle power, either from human muscles, and of course, most of these societies were slave societies, or animal muscle, horses, oxen, and so on. Then we get to the last couple of hundred years and we get fossil fuels, and suddenly everything goes crazy. All the graphs go off the charts in terms of economic growth, economic productivity, human population goes from 1 billion in 1800 to 8 billion today, a rate of population growth never seen anywhere before in human history. Um, on and on. I mean, if just about every graph describing any important trend going on in the world uh, is a hockey stick graph that where everything has just gone uh, has skyrocketed just in the last 200 years, and especially in the last 70 years. Because starting in 1950, petroleum really came on big time. We've been extracting petroleum since the 1850s, but oil really came on as a major energy source globally after the 1950s. And then we saw the most rapid rate of economic growth again all time. So it's all down to fossil fuels. That energy subsidy, which is what we've called it already in our conversation, that energy subsidy enabled complexity, social complexity, not only more uh, disparity in incomes and different occupations and so on, but also development of new technologies to use this energy, automobiles, airplanes, computers, the whole works. If you look at agriculture, what agriculture looked like in 1800, 90% of the population had to work at agriculture in order to provide enough surplus for 10% to be full-time accountants, et cetera, et cetera. Today, it takes 1 to 2% of the population to produce enough food because of fossil fueled agriculture, the tractors, the combines, and so on. It takes 1 to 2%. So that the rest of that 90% of the population, almost 90% of the population has been freed to do other things. And we found jobs for them. The whole modern way of life where you have a job, the very idea of, everybody being employed by a company or by somebody else hardly existed in 1800. Yes, of course, employment existed in cities, but again, only 10% of people lived that way. Most people were small landholders or slaves working on plantations. That's all shifted, and it's all because of fossil fuels. So as fossil fuels go away, which they inevitably will, whether it's as a result of fighting climate change or simply as a result of the depletion of oil, coal, and natural gas, as fossil fuels go away, society is going to change in profound ways. are we up to the task of redesigning society in a way that is commensurate with the available energy and materials that will also minimize the conflict and suffering that human beings are going to otherwise face as we go through this period of change?